Hey guys, welcome back to the Amp Recovery Lab. This is Coach Mike. Today we are going to talk about a very controversial topic in the health and fitness space. We are going to talk about Kinesio tape, okay? So, the 2015 Crossfit Games just finished up, and, we definitely saw a lot of athletes wearing and using Kinesio tape. So we wanted to kind of use that momentum and talk about a little bit of what Kinesio tape is, why these athletes are using it, and what are some of the applications that we use it for here in the Amp Recovery Lab, right? So again, just like anything else, all the companies that make this kind of tape are going to tell you that it's great for everything, which, again, if it works for you, by all means, go ahead and do it. But, in the Amp Recovery Lab, we use this kind of tape, Kinesio tape, for a few very specific reasons that we have found to be very effective, and we're going to share those with you guys out there today. So, first off, this is Coach Dan. For you guys who haven't met Coach Dan Michaels yet, he's our unconventional coaching guru as well as our social media expert. So he's usually behind the camera, but today we're going to get him on the camera. So first off, what is Kinesio tape? Kinesio tape was designed in the 70s by a doctor or chiropractor named Kenzo Kas. He was a Japanese chiropractor who, for the most part, didn't really like the rigidity and the restrictiveness of classic sports tape. So what he did, he set out to design an athletic tape that would stretch and move with the body, and what he came up with was Kinesio tape. So again, in the 70s, he came up with this. So it's been around for 30 or 40 years. It's just really catching fire in the sports world today, in basketball, in the NFL, obviously in CrossFit, but there are a lot of applications for it. And so what he did was he designed the tape to mimic the elasticity of human tissue, right? So instead of restricting joint movement and restricting muscle movement, he wanted to design a tape that was going to flex and bend and extend with his athletes and with his patients, and not only aid in their health and their pain relief, but also aid in their mobility and what obviously being able to wear the tape and move around for extended periods of time. Okay, so why do we use Kinesio tape? Well, the why really depends on a lot of what exactly you're using it for, right? So again, the Kinesio tape proponents out there will tell you that it's great for muscle strains and joint sprains. It's good for swelling. It's good for pain control. It's great for a lot of different things, but really in the Amp Recovery Lab, we use it for three things: promotion of blood flow, pain relief, and aiding movement patterns, and biofeedback. Those are the three big reasons we use them. I'm going to go over all of those briefly, and then we're going to go ahead and demo some of the applications of this tape that we actually use here, right? So the first thing is I'm going to go over is the basic application techniques of the tape. Again, you guys can go out and buy KT tape or Kinesio tape in any store nowadays, and they give you that little pamphlet of like how to do it, but again, it gets really missed of the proper application technique and why when you just slap that tape on you, it really isn't doing much for you. So hopefully we can kind of shed some light on a better way to apply this tape and have it last a little longer. So for starters, I use rock tape. I'm certified in fascial movement taping 1 and 2 through rock tape. So technically I'm called a rock doc, according to their branding. But the reason I use rock tape, this brand specifically, is bang for the buck. This is probably the higher quality tape out there for the amount of money that you're going to spend. It's just a better quality fabric, and the adhesive bonds really, really well. So some of the other Kinesio tape brands out there, they range from really low quality and to really high quality, and obviously you're going to pay the price that reflects that. So keep that in mind if you're shopping around for tape. I definitely like the rock tape, but there are other brands out there that work really, really well. You just have to find what works for you and what fits into your budget, okay? So the first thing I want to go over is when we apply this tape, the first principle is that we want to apply the tape when that body segment is on a stretch. So for example, if Dan goes and lays on his back, if I'm going to apply this to his hamstring, I'm going to put his hamstring on tension. I'm going to put it on a little bit of stretch, right? Because I want to take the slack out of all that tissue and then apply the tape, okay? The reason we do that is because then when he's in a relaxed position, that tape actually gets that lifting action or that, pulling that skin away from the underlying tissue. And we've gone over this in our first Periscope video on hamstring strains of how we apply that taping to that hamstring strain case. But that's really a pretty general application procedure across the board is that we're going to put that area on a stretch when applicable. If you have an athlete that's got a severe strain, obviously you're not going to put that athlete on a stretch. You just do the best you can. So you got to use your judgment there when you're applying this kind of tape in those situations. The second application technique kind of guideline is less is more. Okay, so what I mean by less is more, meaning not less tape is more, but less tension is more. So when we get this tape, we pull it off the backing, our first instinct is to, take all the stretch out of that tape and then throw it on. And we don't want to do that for a couple of reasons. One is, again, we're trying to mimic the elasticity of the muscle tissue underneath, right? Which, a muscle at resting length can stretch about 110 to 120% of its length. So it can almost more than double its length, from a resting state. So we don't want to take all that stretch out of the tape because then we're not really mimicking what that muscle underneath that skin is going to do. So, so again, the rock tape and most of the Kinesio tape brands, they come with a 25% backing already on, 25% tension already on the backing. For the most applications, that's all you really need. You don't need to really put too much more stretch on that. There are a couple of situations where you would, and we'll go over those in a minute. Okay, so again, too much tension, again, can be irritating. So you have that tape on for maybe a few hours and it's already starting to irritate, that part of your body because it's just pulling on that skin an awful lot. So again, less is more is a good principle when applying rock tape or any kind of Kinesio tape that you may use. Okay. And the next thing we're going to go over are the three types of strips, or three types of tape prep procedures that you can use. Okay, so the first one is a fan strip, right? So if I didn't prep one already, so I'm just going to do it real quick. I'm going to take my roll out. I'm just going to cut a little piece off for you guys so that you can actually see what I'm talking about here. Okay, so what a fan strip is basically what I apply to that really acute hamstring strain is when you actually kind of cut this tape into little smaller strips, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating this little piece of 2-inch tape and I'm giving it more surface area. Okay, so now I've allowed that tape to spread out over a longer or over a greater surface area on that applied area so that we can get the maximum lift or the maximum blood flow to that area specifically. So again, fan strips are really great for lymph flow or lymphatic flow. So these are going to be great used most of the time right after an acute injury. So I'm talking about an acute joint sprain rather, or an acute muscle strain. Those two situations, when you get a fresh injury, it's a really good time to apply some of these fan strips so that we're aiding in that lymphatic return. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is anchor this probably to the closest area of concentration of lymph nodes. So, in the lower leg, that's behind the knee, the groin, right, your armpit. These are all areas in our body that we have a large number of lymph nodes. So we want to anchor those strips near where those lymph nodes are and then fan out from there. So we're just kind of influencing that fluid dynamic to kind of head towards those lymph nodes so that they can be dealt with by your body, in a natural way. Okay, so the next strip that we're talking about is called a Y strip. Okay, so a Y strip is really when I just take this tape, I'm going to leave a little bit of an anchor, and I'm just going to split it straight down the middle, okay? Again, this is going to be used to increase the amount of surface area that we're covering, but really what we're using this for is to kind of open up fascial space, okay? So let's say, for example, I just got done doing some myofascial release work, some active release, or maybe some Graston with Dan. I'm going to clean his skin off really well, and I'm actually going to apply this tape so that I'm actually spreading or opening up that whole area. So again, this is going to be on his quad. I might anchor it right at his quad tendon and go one on the medial side, one on the lateral side, again, just to open up and lift that fascial layer so that we're kind of increasing the amount of time we can get the benefit out of that soft tissue work that I just did. So that's one of the reasons I like to use the fan strips. And then again, an eye strip, which is really just a single piece of Kinesio tape, right? So that's not cut at all, just one solid piece. And this is going to be used more for aiding a movement pattern, maybe adding some support to, a damaged ligament or what have you. So these are the situations of eye strips that I'll put more tension on it, depending on the situation. So for example, an MCL sprain or a medial collateral ligament sprain, right? So now this medial knee is kind of gapping a little bit. I might anchor this tape here, take all the stretch out of the tape, and then anchor it again. Again, I'm not covering a lot of muscle tissue, so it won't be irritating. But what I'm doing is taking a lot of that tension out of the tape right over that compromised joint area. So, you know, again, is that going to prevent his knee from gapping? No, guys, come on, it's tape. But when he's walking around, will it give him a feeling of a little bit more stability? Absolutely, okay? So this isn't something where you got an MCL sprain, I'm going to slap on some Kinesio tape and send you back in the game. That is not what we're talking about here. This is like you sprain your knee, this, you know, you've got a long rehab process ahead of you. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of pain relief or that feeling that your knee is loose temporarily while you're walking around. You know, maybe walking around the gym or whatever you're doing. You know, that's all we're talking about. It's just general pain relief, general feeling of a little bit more stability in that area so that it's not something that's bothering you walking around. All right, so moving on, you know, now we're going to actually talk about some application instructions, and I think the best way to do this, I'm just going to actually start applying some tape to Dan. I've already kind of pre-cut a few different taping procedures out, so we're going to go over those together. Again, guys, we don't have anybody at the camera today, so I don't see any of the comments or questions you might be asking, but please visit our YouTube channel, just search for Athletic Movement Protocol. All these Periscope videos go up on YouTube after we're done with them. And you feel free to leave us a comment right on YouTube, and we'll get back to you and answer your individual questions right away. So if any of you guys out there are actually leaving us comments, normally we would answer them right in the video, but I don't have anybody reading me the questions. So please just go to YouTube, you know, maybe by the end of the day or tomorrow the video will be up, and just post your comments on there, your questions. We'll be happy to address them specifically at that time. Okay, so again, so we talked about the different ways that we're going to use Kinesio tape or rock tape. And the first one we're going to do is just to kind of create that sense of stability, okay? So again, this is just tape on the skin. It's not, we're not reinventing, sports medicine here when we do this. But what we are doing is stimulating those sensory nerves in his foot, right? So the first one we're going to do is we're going to straighten this out. Flex that ankle all the way up, right? So we're putting that plantar fascia on a little bit of stretch. Let me just make sure if you guys can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, we can move this a little bit. Perfect. All right. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I've already pre-cut this strip, right? So what you want to do is kind of measure this out, okay? So this is an application where I'm actually going to put on a little bit more tension than 25%, okay? So I'm going to try to add some stability to his foot. So I'm going to put a little bit more tension, maybe 50, max 75%. So when I measure this out, I'm just giving myself 3/4 of the coverage that I would need to cover his whole foot from the heel to the pad of his toes, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this area, right? So I like to just use rubbing alcohol. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol with a spray bottle. I'm just going to spray it real quick, nice and easy, and just wipe this down really nice so it's really good and dry. I like to use rubbing alcohol because it dries right away. Okay, it evaporates quickly. You could use soap and water. Soap and water is probably the best thing to use, but then you gotta wait for the skin to dry. You don't want to apply this to wet skin, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna peel the backing off this tape, okay? I'm gonna try to touch it as little as possible, right? Because even the oils in my hands can kind of compromise the adhesive, right? So I'm gonna touch it as little as possible. First thing I'm gonna do is apply the first anchor, right? So the anchor is the point in the tape where there's zero tension on it. Okay, so I've taken it off the backing, I've let the tape relax, there's no tension there. Okay, now I'm just gonna peel that backing off while I'm holding onto it. I'm gonna pull 50 to 75% tension on the tape, and then I'm just gonna lay it down right on the skin. You don't want any wrinkles in this tape. If you wrinkle it up, especially under the foot, you might wanna just redo it, okay? And then I'm gonna lay that top anchor down with no tension again. So it's no tension, about 50% tension in the middle, and then no tension at the top. Okay, so once the tape is applied, this is an acrylic-based adhesive, so we gotta activate it with a little bit of heat. Okay, so how I'm gonna apply heat is just friction for my hands. I'm just gonna rub up and down, a few minutes or a few seconds or so. Feel that heat generated, and boom, that tape is bonded now. Okay, so this rock tape will last anywhere between 3 and 7 days if you apply it correctly to clean, dry skin. I usually tell my athletes just if it starts to peel, trim it off, leave it on for as long as it'll stay. And if you do want to peel it off, just soak it in alcohol. Peel that tape and then push your skin away from it. You don't want to just rip it off like a Band-Aid, because all that acrylic is just going to stay right on your skin. Okay, so that's the first tape job. And what you'll notice is when you step down on this, you feel a little springy. Okay, so this is something I would do for somebody who's got maybe a fallen arch, or they overpronate. Again, this isn't fixing their problem. It might just give them a little bit of relief. Okay, so this is not, again, guys, this is tools in a toolbox. This is what Kinesio tape is. It's not for everything. It's not going to fix any problems, but if it can help somebody feel better, that's all that matters to me, right? So I don't care so much if more is better. I care if better is better. So if he feels a little bit better, he feels a little bit more stable, great. Then that tape job is well worth the 2 minutes that it took me to apply it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on up. I'm going to show you another application for the knee that I really like to use in my patellofemoral dysfunction cases, as well as my patella tendonitis cases. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few different strips that we use for this. Okay, again, so what I want to do is place this area of his body on stretch, and for the knee, it's just as simple as going to a fully flexed position. Go ahead and straighten this one out here. So that's it. So now he's in a fully flexed position, right? That quad tendon and that patella tendon are on max stretch. His patella is firmly in the femoral groove, right? So this is a really good position to start applying the tape from. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is apply the medial and lateral strips. Okay, so what I'm going to basically do is kind of help create a track for his patella, okay? But really what we're doing this for, again, is blood flow and just general movement efficiency. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is, again, clean his skin off, really, really well, which I've already done, so I'm just going to go ahead and start applying tape. So again, peel that backing off, try not to touch the tape. We're going to anchor this right at the insertion of his tibialis anterior, okay, right at the origin, right there at the top. And what I'm going to do, without putting any stretch on the tape, I'm just going to peel the backing off and lay it down. I'm going to go around his patella and up the other side, okay? So this is going to go right to his quadricep. Same thing, I'm just going to rub this down to adhere and bond that adhesive. I feel like I'm the Bob Ross of Kinesio tape right now. I'm kind of explaining it as I go. Yeah, you thought that was funny. All right, so we're going to do the same exact procedure, obviously around the outside. And then I'm going to bring you guys in for a close-up. You're going to see just how much skin lift I can get with this type of taping procedure, okay? So we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to go around the outside the patella and then back up towards that VMO. Okay? Again, so I kind of measured these out beforehand and then I cut them. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that you'll notice that I rounded the end of that tape off. And the reason I do that is so that corner doesn't get snagged on your clothes. It just helps the ends of the tape stick a little bit longer. And it makes it look nice, obviously. So, aesthetics are one thing, so you definitely just trim the ends off. It just makes it a lot easier to apply and to stay on a little bit longer, okay? Now, the last strip I'm going to apply here, so let's say Dan has a case of patella tendonitis, is I'm actually going to apply what we call a decompression strip. So this time, instead of just peeling the tape off the backing, I'm actually just going to split that backing right down the middle and expose the tape from the middle, but I'm going to leave the ends covered, okay? So this is one of those situations where I'm actually going to apply a good amount of tension to this tape, right? So this is 0 tension, this is 50%, and this is like max tension. You can almost see when you pull it all the way apart, it becomes see-through. So I'm going to get it to the point where it's see-through. I'm going to lay it right on his patella tendon, okay? And then I'm going to anchor it down with no tension on the anchors, okay? Same thing. I'm going to rub this down just to create some heat, okay? And we're going to bring you guys in for like a spikely close-up just here in a second. All right, so that's all well applied now. Get rid of that. So Dan, go ahead and straighten your knee back out. And you guys are going to come with me. And what you'll notice here is that his skin is all wrinkled up, right? So it's all wrinkled up here. And the reason that is because I've actually kind of taken that skin and I've taped it while it was in a lengthened position. So now that he's relaxed, you can see how that's really bubbling up here, okay? So what that's doing is just creating blood flow in that area or allowing for more blood flow in that area, okay? So, for someone with patella tendonitis or a chronic inflammatory condition in the knee, this might be part of my treatment intervention. So I'm not necessarily just doing this. I might do some Graston technique on that patella tendon. I might do some work on his quad, figure out where their dysfunction is, and do my manual therapy and my corrective exercise. But I might finish the treatment with this just so when he leaves my door, he feels better. And this is kind of allowing an optimal healing environment for a longer period of time. Okay, so again, this isn't going to fix the problem on its own, but it's definitely going to aid in the resolution by just creating a little bit more space under the skin, more blood flow, more lymph flow. You know, things are feeling groovy, you know, underneath that skin on his knee right now. So we're going to go ahead and move on, and we're going to do one more thing with the Kinesio tape. That's probably my favorite application for it, which is biofeedback. Okay, so then Dan, stand up for me, and you're going to just take your shirt off. I know, ladies, calm down back there. He's still got his tank top on, so no free show today, okay? All right, so really one of the things I like to do with this the most is for my postural correction, okay? So we get a lot of athletes, a lot of clients in here that come to us with issues that are 100% stemming from poor posture, right? So again, just let's imagine in your mind's eye that those shoulders are forward, that head is forward, right? You know, maybe that shoulder blade is elevated on the rib cage. And now what's happened there, and maybe Dan can mimic that position for me, is around that shoulder. Right now, what we've done is that scapula has moved up and forward on the rib cage, and it's created much less space for your rotator cuff to pass through. So when we talk about impingement, that's what we mean by impingement, okay? So every shoulder impinges, okay? We have bone, soft tissue, then bone. So there's always going to be a certain degree of pinching that happens there. Whether it's symptomatic or not is a totally different case. So this is the postural dysfunction that will cause that symptomatic or painful impingement of the shoulder, okay? So, we can do all the manual therapy, corrective exercise in the world to start to try to fix this problem, but the biggest part is people being aware of it, right? Because if you're sitting in this posture all day, it's very difficult to correct that, even if you're doing the perfect corrective exercise program. Manual therapy for a half hour of corrective exercise every day. So that's an hour worth of time that you're trying to fix this problem versus the 8, 9, 10 hours a day you're spending at your desk at work. So what do you guys think is going to kind of tip the scale in the wrong direction? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put him in an ideal posture position, right? So we're going to bring that shoulder down and back, right? He's got good posture. He's nice and tall, okay? His thumbs are facing forward. And I'm actually going to tape him like this with very little tension on the tape. I'm going to virtually put no tension on the tape. So my goal is for when he is at a good postural position that he doesn't feel the tape on there, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put this tape on. Okay, so I'm going to anchor it right over his humerus, this first strip. Anchor it on there. And I'm going to go straight across his back, across the top of his shoulder blade, okay? So same procedure. I'm just going to lay that tape down in a good position. Get it under his shirt here. Oops. Okay, perfect. Take that anchor out. Okay, rub it down. So you guys can see it's all the way across the top border of his shoulder blade. Rub it down. Same thing for this strip. I'm going to anchor it in the same spot, but I'm going to go down that lateral border of his shoulder blade, okay? And again, this is just for feedback for him. So I'm going to anchor it right in the same spot, basically, and we're just going to go down now. So I'm going to try to do this without getting my hands in the way so you can see, but I'm just laying that tape down as I peel that backing off. Mind your shirt. Okay, I got it on my shirt a little bit. Okay, no big deal. That's good. Okay. So, again, with new clients, I do this a lot just to teach them or make them aware of just how often they're in a bad position. So now, as you guys can see, that tape is basically just, almost like that arrow shape right at his humerus, okay? So Dan, go ahead and go into that bad position again. What do you feel?
A lot of tension.
He feels tension. That's all he feels is tension on the tape. So all this is a biofeedback mechanism so that when he gets in that poor position, that tape's going to remind him. That's all it's doing. It's not fixing the problem. It's not, it's not the end-all, be-all solution, but it's part of an overall plan that we can use to help this person understand and just be aware of just how their posture can influence their injury history. So again, this isn't, a rocket science, explanation for why we're going to use kinesio tape. This is just a very basic way that anybody can apply this tape either to yourself, to a friend or family member, and help them just be aware of their posture positions, okay? So again, we went over a lot of stuff today, but again, just to kind of finish up, we're going to, if you guys have any comments or questions at all about what we're doing, how we use rock tape here in the AMP Recovery Lab on a day-to-day basis, please just go to our YouTube channel. You can check out our other Periscope videos that we've done on there and leave us comments and questions. We'll be happy. Dan is awesome when it comes to that stuff. He's a certified athletic trainer. He's a certified strength and conditioning coach. He gets on those questions right away. So if you guys have anything you're wondering of how we applied this tape, or maybe some of the other ways we use it, maybe you guys have a problem that you're wondering if kinesio tape can help you, just drop us a comment or a question right on YouTube, and we'll definitely get back to you pretty quickly. Okay, so again, we're gonna talk about just basic tape care. Like I said, once this is activated and you give it like 10-20 minutes to dry, it's pretty much going to stay for up to a week. Okay, so again, if it starts to peel, I like to just tell my athletes and clients just to trim it off. Leave it on for as long as you can. But in terms of just caring for the tape, you can wash it with soap and water in the shower. Just pat it dry when you're done. And again, just even going a little further, you can take that same rubbing alcohol that you clean the skin with, and what I would tell you is just to kind of soak that tape in the rubbing alcohol. Soak it down. This will help kind of break up that adhesive a little bit. And when you peel the tape, like I said, don't just rip it off, because you're just going to leave all the acrylic right on your body, right? So you're going to peel this off, and you're going to actually push the skin away from the tape, right? So this isn't painful, I'm just pushing that skin away so that it's kind of releasing from the skin a little bit at a time until that tape is all the way off, okay? Roll it up, throw it away, okay? So I hope, we kind of shed some light as to, why these CrossFit athletes are finding kinesio taping so beneficial. Again, it's not for everything, but there are those few applications where it does really make that little bit of a difference for our clients and our athletes. So again, just giving somebody a little bit of an edge in their performance, or helping them feel even just a little bit better, that's the value of, kinesio taping methods, okay? If you guys have any questions about anything we went over, again, please just leave us a comment on YouTube. If you're not following us on our social media handles, at @amp_athlete for Instagram and Twitter, and at Athletic Movement Protocol for Facebook, all these notes, we're going to start sending them out in the newsletter, so please get on our website at athleticmovementprotocol.com and just put your email address right in that registry box, and you'll get all these notes, access to AMP, special features, newsletters, updates. We put a lot of good stuff out there. Coach TJ is putting out an article on deadlift techniques, coming down the pipeline soon, so definitely get in on that. Just want to thank you for viewing, and we will talk to you guys soon. All right, take care.